Sometimes, the greatest truths are revealed when we take off the mask of wealth and meet people at eye level. Leon Hartman wasn't your typical billionaire. Despite running a global tech empire and gracing the covers of elite magazines, he often felt a disconnect with the world around him, especially when it came to relationships. Women were drawn to his status, his money, his lifestyle. But what if none of that existed? Would anyone like him for him? That question haunted him until he decided to conduct a personal experiment, one that his board of directors would call crazy if they ever found out. He created a fake dating profile under the name Leo, listing no job, no mansion, and no mention of wealth. Instead, he described himself as a struggling freelance writer who loved poetry, coffee shops, and helping stray animals. His photo was real, just less polished, no suits, no luxury background, just him in a hoodie and jeans. He matched with 3 women. 2 never showed up after asking what car he drove. But the third, a woman named Elise, confirmed the date at a humble cafe in the city's old district. That morning, Leon didn't dress in designer brands or take a town car. He wore scuffed shoes, thrifted clothes, and even added a little dust and wear to his face and hands. He wanted to look like someone who truly worked hard for every cent. To complete the illusion, he sat outside the cafe pretending to wait as a passerby, a homeless man resting with a small bag of belongings. Elise arrived early. She looked around, then glanced at her phone. Leon watched from the bench, heart pounding. Would she approach him? Would she walk past? She looked at him twice, then smiled and walked straight up to the beggar on the bench. "Leo?" she asked gently. Leon looked up, unsure if he should continue the act or speak. But her kindness was disarming. "I'm Elise. Sorry, just wasn't sure if this was you." She didn't flinch at his worn-out look. She didn't judge. She extended her hand warmly, with no hesitation. In that moment, Leon knew. This wasn't going to be a typical date. Elise didn't care that Leo looked like he hadn't shaved or ironed his clothes. She didn't question why his shoes were falling apart or why his backpack had holes. Instead, she sat beside him with a gentle smile and said, "You chose a cozy spot. Want to head inside or just talk here?" Leon, still in character, nodded. "Here is fine. I like the air." She laughed softly. "It's actually really peaceful. Sometimes cafes are too noisy for real conversations." That line hit him. She wasn't here for status. She wanted a real connection. They spoke for over an hour. Elise told him she worked as a librarian and sometimes volunteered at a shelter. She didn't brag. Her stories were filled with moments of compassion, helping a homeless man find a jacket before winter, organizing a book drive for underfunded schools, baking cookies for her elderly neighbor. She even joked about how bad she was at dating apps, saying, "I'm just looking for someone kind. I don't care about money. I care about how someone treats the waiter." Leon kept up the act. He told her he was trying to get published and worked odd jobs to make ends meet. She didn't flinch. She nodded with understanding. At one point she noticed his hands, dirty and scraped. "Do you do a lot of manual work?" she asked with concern. "A bit," Leon replied quietly. She didn't look away. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small bottle of hand cream. "I know this sounds silly, but this helps with cracks. My dad used to come home with hands like yours. He was a mechanic." Leon stared at her. Not out of surprise, but because no one had ever shown him this kind of pure, unsolicited care without knowing who he really was. They ordered coffee. Elise offered to pay when she saw him hesitate with the menu. "You got this one," she said. "I'll get the next. Deal?" That moment, small as it was bigger than any business deal Leon had ever made. He realized that Elise wasn't trying to impress him. She was just being herself. Real, thoughtful, and kind. As they walked out, she asked, "Same time next week?" Leon smiled. Definitely. But deep down, he knew. The next time, everything would be different. Leon couldn't sleep that night. Elise's honesty, warmth, and total lack of pretension stayed with him, like a melody that refused to fade. In a world where everyone tried to impress him, Elise had been herself, simple, kind, and genuine. And now, he faced a decision that could change both their lives. A week later, Elise arrived at the cafe again. She wore the same cozy sweater and the same humble smile. But this time, something felt different. The cafe, usually quiet, buzzed with murmurs. Paparazzi lingered outside. A luxury car she didn't recognize sat parked in front. Still, she walked in and sat at their usual spot. "Where is he?" she wondered aloud. "Hope everything's okay." Then, the cafe doors opened. In walked Leon, but not the Leon she knew. This Leon wore a crisp, tailored suit. His beard was trimmed, his shoes polished, his presence commanding. Everyone in the cafe turned to look. Phones rose in shaky hands. Someone whispered, "That's Leon Ferris, the billionaire CEO of LF Tech." Elise's eyes widened, confused. She blinked as Leon walked straight to her and sat down with the same warmth he had a week before. "Elise," he began gently, "I need to tell you the truth." She sat frozen, barely breathing. "I didn't lie to hurt you. I pretended to be someone else because I've been lied to, used, and surrounded by people who only care about my bank account. I needed to know what was real." He paused, looking into her stunned eyes. "And you showed me more kindness and honesty than anyone has in years." The entire cafe was silent now. Some people were filming. Others just watched, moved by what felt like a scene from a movie. "I'm sorry," he added. "You deserve the truth. You also deserve the choice. If this changes how you see me, I'll understand." Elise stared at him. Her heart pounded. Her mind raced. Then, quietly, she asked, "So, the stories you told me, were they true?" Leon nodded. "Every single one, except for the job and the clothes." She looked down, thinking, then back up at him. "I don't care about the suit," she said, "but I do care that you trusted me enough to show me who you really are, before all this." Leon's eyes softened. And in that moment, it was no longer about disguises or wealth. It was about two people who had found something rare. Truth. The days that followed turned Elise's quiet world upside down. Newspapers and blogs picked up the story. Billionaire goes undercover on a blind date, falls for humble cafe girl. Reporters camped outside her tiny apartment. Strangers showed up at the cafe just to catch a glimpse of her. Some people gushed, others scoffed, calling it a publicity stunt. But Elise stayed grounded. She hadn't fallen for a billionaire. She had fallen for Leon, the thoughtful man who listened to her stories, laughed at her silly jokes, and made her feel seen in a world that often ignored people like her. One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Leon took her to the rooftop of his company headquarters. The view was stunning, but Elise barely noticed it. Her eyes were on him. Leon pulled a small velvet box from his coat. Her heart skipped a beat, but it wasn't what she expected. Inside the box wasn't a ring. It was a key. "To what?" she asked, confused. He smiled. "To your own cafe. You once told me your dream was to open a book-themed cafe with free coffee for students and a reading corner for kids. I bought the building next to the park. It's yours, if you want it." Tears welled up in Elise's eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Leon stepped closer. "Because you believed in me when you thought I was nobody. Because you saw a man worth caring for, not a title worth chasing. Because people like you change lives. Elise looked at the key, then at the man who had once walked into her life, looking like a lost soul, and now stood like the answer to 1,000 prayers. She whispered, "I still want a second date." Leon laughed. "Only if I don't have to dress like a beggar again." They both smiled, standing beneath the city lights. No disguises, no secrets. Just two people beginning a story neither of them had expected, but both deeply needed. Their love didn't begin in a mansion or a luxury car. It started with a cup of coffee, a touch of honesty, and a test that became a blessing in disguise. And the world? The world kept watching. But for Elise and Leon, it was no longer about the headlines. It was about home. The kind you build when someone sees you for who you really are.